Hello everybody, welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Such.
My name's James. I'll tell you well out of practice. 2 seconds before you knocked your mic.
Knocked the little pop shield. Pop shield, Planet FPL.
How you been, boss? How's your holiday?
I'm back. I mean, I looked for a few of the questions that we had in on Twitter yesterday. People more interested in what I've been doing in the 2 weeks that I've not been here than they were in any FPL-related questions. But maybe we'll get to some of them at the end.
All right.
I'm here again. We're in a new setup, a new studio space for the first time. So, leave a comment on YouTube if you can see it, if you like it.
They're all going to say, can you brighten it up a bit?
Are better looking or worse looking, whether the brick wall behind us makes any impact to the quality of the FPL advice and chit-chat. Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
Brick wall's a brick wall, wasn't it?
Feels right. What are we, end of game week 30?
Yes, boss.
Into game week 31. And I've not been here since the double game week, which was quite a monster for a lot of people. And then obviously straight into game week 30 as well. So it's been a little while. The content's been thick and fast. I've been dipping in and listening to the vast majority.
You did notice.
People obviously loving a lot of the guests that we had on. I don't think I needed to come back. They were loving Andy's pod, Harry's pod.
I think you did.
Benny Blanco.
Shout out to all the guests who helped me out last couple of weeks.
Mention some and not mention others.
Grateful.
We had loads, but it was
it's
good.
Too many
decent.
to mention. I'll forget someone. Right?
Really decent. So, but I am back here, and do you know what? Up until about 3 minutes ago, my game week that just ended, I actually thought it was okay, but then I look and it's a game week rank of 9.3 million, which
harsh.
Yeah, it seems very low relative to the Red Arrow and relative to the game week. Like I finished, you were on 58 points. I was only 15 points behind you. And remember, I went Haalandless. I didn't think the gap was as big in terms of overall rank, the game week rank between 43 and 50. What do you know your game week rank?
4.7.
Wow. So that's only halfway, really, kind of roughly. I would have thought yours was a bit higher because I didn't see that many scores in the 70s.
I had a green arrow from 303,000 to 302,000. Let's call it a grey.
Okay, I went back from 101 to 152. But yeah, ended up, honestly, until I saw my game week rank, I didn't think the gap was worth worrying about. I mean, ultimately,
now you need psychological support?
Nah, not really. I'm not worried about it because it was one of those again where the decision you only judge your decision making, you don't judge the outcome because you're out of control of the outcome, right? And you judge your decision making. This was one where I briefly spoke to you about it when you were in the middle of the deadline stream. I had to make a call on Haaland. That was the big debate for most people this week. Go Haaland. If I went Haaland, I would have captained him. But if I went Haaland, I would have had to take a hit to get him, which would have meant selling Salah and downgrading Salah. And I actually looked at even going to a -8 and selling Isak for Jesus, Tony for Haaland, and that would have left me a £7 million replacement for Salah. But I might have just gone particularly cheap and gone with bench fodder for that decision. And the debate was like, is it worth it for a hit? Because that's 4 points off the table straight away already. And I decided that based on the fact that he was just coming back from injury and they had Munich midweek, I wasn't going to go with Haaland. And that wasn't a case of Haaland won't go off. It was a case of how big will he go off.
Was you watching it live when he put his 8 foot in the air again?
Well, was it that high? I don't know. People are raving. I mean, there's been a lot better overhead kicks than that.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, when he went to do it, everyone went, he'll score.
Yeah, his likelihood was when he connects with a football, because he only touches it 5 times in a game and 3 of them are goals, that he's going to score. So if you'd have said to me, look, I thought, you know what, I'd rather go into this week with 2 transfers, 2 free transfers, assess the situation and decide what I'm doing strategy-wise.
So you rolled?
Yeah, I rolled.
Okay.
Yeah, I rolled. And and then looking at it, ultimately the decision wasn't too bad, because if you'd have said to me, prior to it, make your decision knowing that Tony and Salah are both going to get penalties, because I own both, and Rashford's going to have an XG of 1 in a game for a single player.
Salah had his highest XG ever in a Premier League game, mate.
Yeah, you would have said, yeah, it sounds okay to keep Tony, keep Salah, captain Rashford, and not go to Haaland, knowing I'm going to go back to Haaland, right? But this week I thought I could not. Ultimately, it's probably cost me, give or take, 10, 12 points in terms of who I would have played and not played and so on. So Haaland could damage you big time, right? And I didn't feel like it was a big kick in the balls. Tony scores his penalty and Salah scores his penalty. We're not even having a discussion, right? It's because suddenly it's like it was an irrelevant decision anyway, and the likelihood of them missing penalties is pretty small. So ended up being, meh. Virgil van Dijk has been a bit of a disappointment. Even when I scored 139.
He gets 0 in the double as well.
Yeah, he got 0 in the double and 0 this week. Chilwell, 0, but I think a lot of people had ownership on him.
Chilwell has been a lot more unlucky.
Yeah. But I mean, look, Salah, Isak, Tony, Kane and Rashford are my returnees. Meh, it's okay. The damage wasn't bad. And I've now got 2 transfers rolling into this week with a free hit lined up for 32 still. When I looked at Isak to Jesus, Tony to Haaland, Salah down to someone, there was also, I was like, well, if I'm going this far, I could get rid of Van Dijk and go for someone else, which means I could also get rid of Ben White and go to someone else and get Martinelli.
You should clarify for the listeners and viewers, you've still got your wild card.
I've still got my wild card. I did look at like 5 or 6 changes and wild carding, but I didn't have enough time, because this was a Saturday morning thought, to really flesh it out. I left it. I just didn't see the downside in keeping. Are
you considering doing it now then?
I'd rather not. I think I'm likely to use 2 plus a hit for this week. Piling free hit 32.
Yeah.
But whoever I'm buying now is going to be to set myself up for 34. For the doubles.
Why, if you've got the wild card left?
Well, I can wildcard in 34 or 37, but I've got.
You get a wildcard in 37, Sush.
That's too late. So the likelihood is I can wildcard in 34, but I could wildcard now to set myself up for 34, right?
And you probably will be better doing 34 than 33 because you have used bench boost.
Correct.
Whereas there'll be many who've still got both wildcard 33, bench
boost 34. The thing is, though, I'm also like Rashford's a question mark, which I'm sure we'll discuss because he's obviously flagged and we don't have full information yet.
Yep.
But I've got him. I've got triple Brighton. I'll have Haaland and one other City already for 34 as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not like crazily badly. I've got Van Dijk and Salah. So if I had 2 Liverpool, 2 City, 3 Brighton, 2 Man United, I'm not far off set up for the double game week anyway.
So are you still planning to lose Salah to get Haaland?
Yeah.
This is the debate. I just want to take the listeners through what you've got in terms of who's blanking for you currently in 32. So you've got Kepa and Chilwell, Chelsea. Yep. You've got 3 Brighton, still McAllister, Mitoma.
Yep.
You've got Marcus Rashford, who might be injured in any case anyway.
Correct.
So you'll only have 5 absentees for 32 as
Correct.
It stands currently, with 3 free transfers over the 2 weeks to comfortably sort that out in the sense you could get Haaland, okay, maybe go with 10 in 32, or if you're going to wildcard straight afterwards, you dip him in for the week, go for someone else in 32, for example. You've already got double Liverpool and double Arsenal. You've got Van Dijk, Salah, Saka, White. Now, there's every chance the 3 hitters in 32 are certainly going to have Salah, Saka, probably Gabriel Martinelli, who could be your move in for Rashford this week, for example. West Ham away, Southampton at home, get rid if you want. Most will have something Liverpool defensive, be it probably Trent. Or Robertson.
Yeah.
And you've already got the 3rd Arsenal with Ben White, so the defensive one, leading me to question, you've got treble Newcastle, home to Tottenham. I wouldn't fear that. Trippier, Isak, Botman. If you don't go for Haaland, you've got Kane and Tony in 32 as well. So you could quite easily have treble Liverpool, treble Arsenal, treble Newcastle, Kane and Tony, 32. You could go Martinelli in for Rashford now if he's injured, and you could get probably Alisson for Kepa as an example. And he's set for 32. And that will be pretty equal to the majority of free hit teams.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at, the honest truth is I hadn't looked at a free hit team for 32 yet. I hadn't bothered. So that could dictate, like, if my free hit team.
Well, I can say for me now, highly likely it will be treble Arsenal, treble Liverpool, and probably double Newcastle, and then take a few punts on a few others, Palace, Fulham, whatever.
But what would you then do with the free hit? 37?
No, that's me on my free hit.
No. So if I didn't use my free hit in 32, what would I do with it?
That's one way of doing it, yeah, you could do. But the only real difference between the 2 weeks is basically Liverpool double 34, don't double 37.
Yeah.
But in 37, we might have different problems where, for example, United might be in Europa League final and they might have top 4 sewn up, and therefore their double might suddenly look irrelevant to you. So, I mean, you're going to want some Newcastle, Brighton for your wild card anyway, if you wild card 33, 34, because you know that extra fixture lingers as well. Yeah, I had this discussion with Rob Pick on our Patreon podcast on Friday, almost saying that people who weren't that badly set up for 32, almost unbelievably looking at it now going, I'm not even sure if I need this.
Yeah.
And so you start looking at alternatives. Like, look through what week is bad. If you wildcard, would you even consider free hit 38? If you went heavy on United, let's just say hypothetically Rashford, Fernandes, Shaw are all fit, you went them 3 and United are still fighting for top 4 in 37, what do you want a free hit for if you've got good City, good Brighton coverage, etc.?
Yeah, I understand that. My issue at the moment is lack of Man City. I need to fix that, and Haaland being the obvious one.
You could fix that in the free moves for -4 this week, but I so totally understand that pushes you into the to the free hit 32.
Yeah.
But then there's not quite a necessity for you to slam in it because you've still got that wild card, and when you do, I'm sure you probably will go free Man City.
Yep.
So plenty to debate there. I guess you probably feel you're pushing into it for Haaland, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to get him back for Leicester. I'm not. People will be like, well, why would you buy him and then free hit the week after? When I buy Haaland, now he's staying till the end of the season.
For free hitters, Haaland has 4 consecutive home fixtures, essentially. Got this week Leicester, you got 33 Arsenal, 34 West Ham as part of the double, and 35 Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be without that.
No, he's coming in this week, regardless.
Any debate on captaincy for you this week?
Haaland.
Not considering you've got Kane, I haven't. Home to Bournemouth?
Nah.
Yeah, I've not got anything particularly to add on that. Should I take you through my week?
Yes, sir.
So 58 points for me. Kind of got marginal calls right in terms of Kepa, 3-0 over Raya, Henry 5-1 over Botman. Ben Chilwell didn't start. For those of us who own, I don't think any of us could have seen that coming. Pleased to finally get my James Maddison assist. Great through ball there for Philip Billing. You might have noticed at the weekend. Marcus Rashford 6. I got Haaland in 3 and Nacho. Nacho didn't start again. Hey, clue Leicester, you got a scoring problem. I can fix it for you. 24 points for Haaland, 4 for Tony, 7 for Watkins. 58 points. As I said, very, very marginal green arrow for me, just outside top 300k. Rashford and Shaw are obviously flagged now, so I've gone from having the ideal Manchester United 3. There's only 3 choices a couple of weeks ago to now not wanting fucking any of them. Because Bruno played very, very deep at the weekend. That said, I mean, 6 chances created, another 2 big chances. I think 8 in total, despite playing deep. United kept pinging the ball over the top of Everton, and he was the hub of it, Bruno Fernandes, actually. If Rashford's out, I think the transfer on the table is probably the same thing that everyone's thinking this week. Marcus Rashford to Jack Grealish. Sorry, boring. We're at that stage of the season, and that's probably what I'll be doing if Rashford's out for a few weeks. I may decide, subject to further information on Luke Shaw, to potentially get a City defender on top of that for a -4 as well, which I'm pleased I didn't do last week because they conceded and they can't help themselves. But looking at it with the 4 home games over my next 4 weeks as I free hit in 32, almost feels like maybe justifiable to just sort that out because it's going to become a lingering problem. And also moving on Ben Chilwell, if I was to do that rather than a Shaw, if I went Chilwell down to sort of Aki, just about allows me to thump Maddison in for Salah as well, should I want to, or at least enables me a clearer path back to Mo Salah from game week 33 onwards. It'll be Haaland captain for me. If Rashford out, it's Rashford to Grealish. If Rashford's not out, it might be Maddison to Grealish for me anyway, rather than Salah in the first instance because of Leicester.
You're pretty hot on Jack Grealish at the moment.
It will be. I mean, to be honest, this time last week, I was quite high on going Gundogan over Grealish, but having watched the game Saturday night, he's just absolutely on fire at the moment, Jack.
Yeah. I think he's pretty nailed as well at the moment.
Well, you haven't got the threat of Foden on that side. They haven't got anyone else naturally that plays the left side. It's worth saying if you're thinking, oh my God, I need it for 34, every chance Phil Foden will be back by then. But if it ends up being Jack Grealish expected 120 minutes versus Fulham and West Ham, am I bothered? Not really. So if Rashford's out for a few weeks, and considering we know it's a muscle injury, I think there's every reason to expect that might be the case, but we don't have confirmation at the moment. Yeah, Jack Grealish is going to be extremely popular. He's already gone up in price. He will do again before the weekend.
$7 million
He's cheaper
now.
than Gundogan as well. It's like I want to make a strong case to go Gundogan over Grealish. I can't really. Even that little bit of money might come in useful. I'm talking about it's going to be close for me, like Maddison to Salah down the line, for example. So even that is possibly going to be a difference maker for me. So, yeah, Jack Grealish will be very popular this week.
Let's talk about the games from the weekend, shall we? 10 of them that we want to get through. And we're talking about Marcus Rashford. Well, the early kickoff on Saturday was Manchester United-Everton. 2-0 home win. Rashford.
Big chances missed. Doesn't normally.
1-on-1.
They had 21 shots in the
big.
first half. There were a number of statistics from the weekend which were like first-timers. I think it was most shots United had in the first half since Opta started statistics.
Wow.
Crystal Palace, most dribbles.
Most
Premier
dribbles.
League team. Yeah. Most completed dribbles by a Premier League
Have Crystal
team.
Palace ever scored 5 goals in a game as well?
It's the joint biggest ever away league top flight victory.
All right,
ever.
okay.
Liverpool and Arsenal had loads of statistics we'll talk about later as well. The game was more comfortable than United made it in the sense they kept missing chances. Jordan Pickford made a number of really good saves in the first half. Everton changed system a little bit and went with more of a 4-4-2 without the ball. But it meant that because Fernandes was playing so deep, United just kept playing into him and he was just playing away from there. And they did look over the top quite quickly, which I think as a strategy against Everton is a pretty good one to have because if you play too slow and you allow them to be compact, what United were doing was stretching the game and making it as big as possible, as quickly as possible. On Fernandes, Casemiro's back this week, and obviously Christian Eriksen came on as a sub as well.
Yep.
And if Rashford is out, which I think probably have to presume that there's every chance he'll miss at least this weekend at the moment, then he's going to become really important. He'll certainly be on the penalties, which we think he was anyway, and I think he'll probably go and play a lot higher, and he might suddenly become talisman. So those who've been without are obviously really pleased. Those who are on, a little bit as discussed last week with Andy Mears on Thursday, was let's give it at least the Forest game and then make a judgment after that. So I imagine Fernandes will probably go higher. Could it be Fernandes and Casemiro deeper with Sabitzer at 10? Yes, it could be. But I think the fact Rashford's out, they want someone who's proven at the top end. Timing is interesting maybe for Anthony Martial, who obviously came in and
I was going to say, what are your thoughts on him now? He's only been coming in off the bench.
I think, fuck that is my reaction.
Yeah, it would only be tempting if Rashford was out. But the problem is with Martial, there are so many better striker options at the same price already. Watkins, Isak, even Tony.
In 34, which is interesting. Yeah. The forwards in the double for 34 aren't great. There's nothing now with Fulham unless you want to go Vinicius. West Ham, Ings, Antonio, Schumacher, it's a bit messy. City, Haaland, obviously. Liverpool, Nunes. Do we get 2 starts out of him? Jota hasn't scored for about 30 games.
Yeah, I know, but he also hasn't played properly for a while, so he's going to come good.
Brighton, Evan Ferguson's absolutely fine, but it's enabler in any case. Yeah. And then United at the moment, there's nothing. So it might be, I mean, say if you were to free hit in 34 and Rashford's out, then yeah, I could see Martial being quite interesting for that week individually. But otherwise, no. I'd rather have, I think, Tony at home to Forest or Isak at home to Southampton than Martial with a double. Would be my take. And it's looking a tougher double for United now because of Villa's form.
Yeah.
Which is part of the double. They've got Villa and Brighton in 34. So, yeah, I think the probably the one to pick up on United now new, if you want to start building that way, is probably De Gea.
Yeah.
It's actually joint for most clean sheets in the Premier League now. And that might be one that solves a few problems. So it might be if I take Rashford out, rather than thinking, I want to get a second United offensive player, no, I think it's probably more likely I look at De Gea a keeper with doubles to come and just leave him for the rest of the season. Everton, no real interest. I was surprised how open they were. But I think we all seem to suddenly have this sense about them that they're going to be all right.
Well, they're only 1 point above the drop zone and on the same points.
Trust them to have more fight than Leeds and Leicester at the moment.
Yeah. It's again, you asked me if I think we're going down. It's more that there's other teams that are particularly worse than us than anything else. And I trust Sean Dyche, yes, but it's squeaky bum time. It's very, very, very tight at the bottom.
I think they'll be all right from an FPL asset perspective.
Never going to have any.
There's no interest. And I think even if you were looking free hit or if you were going towards 32, Palace's performance on Sundays probably put you off of a cheap Tarkowski or a cheap Michael Keane, for example, at the moment.
Another team dropping into the relegation zone, though, is Nottingham Forest, who are one of those that are really sleepwalking into trouble. Villa, on the other hand, was that 6 wins and a draw in their last 7.
Yep.
That's stonking form, mate. That's title-winning form. Not that they're going to win the title, but 6 wins and a draw in 7. Give me that all day long. Ollie Watkins on fire. I think he's still a get, right, for a lot of people. 7.6 million. If you haven't got him...
are you going to let Double go and Forest at home go and then buy him? I feel like the best of that's gone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just consistent as hell, though. How many games in a row has he scored now?
10 returns in 11 or so.
Yeah.
Literally, we keep saying it every single week since Emery took over. He's blanked in 2 games that it started. Since Emery got the job. Emery's been in the job now for 5
They have got a
months
tough run. I mean, Newcastle, Brentford are difficult games. Man United, Spurs, Liverpool, Brighton. It's only really the Wolves and Fulham games that you think...
Did you say Spurs?
Well, yeah.
Take that out.
Yeah. But Villa are gettable, I think, still, if you want.
Well, interestingly, again, if you are free hitting 32, you've got 2 home games coming up. But I think Newcastle at home this week is conflicting, isn't it? Most of the listeners and viewers will have Kieran Trippier, right? So if you're buying new, you're putting yourself in the conflicting. Interestingly, though, if you look ahead to 33, Serge, I think most of us will probably get there and captain Haaland by default because it's a home fixture at the Etihad, but it's when they're playing Arsenal. Fixtures for the others don't look great. You're not going to captain Kane against Manchester United. Rashford's, there's every chance he's off the table, unavailable. Salah at West Ham.
Yep.
Watkins at home to Fulham. Watkins might be the best alternative. The problem is, and this is what we was talking about last week as well with Watkins, all these returns, there's only been 1 double point returun.
It's chipping away rather than...
Yeah, 7, 8,
7.6 is still a good price.
It's great, but I think now, because you've got such powerful players in the league like Haaland, the days of... there have been seasons like this, of days of, I think he'll return, that's enough for a captaincy, don't feel great when you know that, okay, Watkins at home to Fulham, yeah, sure, I think he'll score. But if City beat Arsenal 3-2, there's every chance Haaland will get a couple, for example, right?
Yep.
So... and obviously you're playing against the EO. But yeah, that's Watkins at home to Fulham is potentially an alternative. Defensively, they're doing really well. I think Moreno's beginning to put his hand up a little bit more. I think the problem now is if you go and buy Villa, particularly if you go defensive, other than that Fulham fixture in 33, you're probably asking yourself, how often are you playing it? So I think those are on. It's great. You're certainly not stressing about that. And you're not going to stress even though it's Newcastle this weekend. But I think buying new... I think the moment's probably gone, personally. Forest are ranking trouble.
Yeah. It's, you know when you worry for a team, I heard Mark Southerns, our Nottingham Forest correspondent, talking about it, starting to talk with next season in mind. And that's when you're like, the season's not done, but thinking, oh, we're best placed to come back up with Cooper in charge and the squad that we've got, and we might lose a couple, but we'll still be okay to come back. I'm like, well, if that's where your head's at now, then you're 1 foot in the relegation zone. I was going to say 1 foot in the grave. They're thinking like, all right, we're going to go down. We'll come back. We'll set ourselves up to come back up again, and that's not where you want to be.
If you looked at their fixtures, what's to come though? United at home, Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Brentford away. I mean, just start worrying.
0 points.
Could be, couldn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a danger of a gap potentially opening up, and they've been on the slide for a while. It's not. And this away form, just can't get. I think their XG at the weekend was like 0.29 or something. It's a repetitive theme away from home and just don't really create chances. With the fixtures to come, I guess the only one people maybe on is Johnson. It becomes a sell now.
Yeah.
I think you're going to hold that for 32 if you're not free hitting. Liverpool way, I suppose from Johnson's perspective, Liverpool way is probably one of the better fixtures he's got in the next few weeks. But yeah, I think generally if you've got any Forest, you'd be selling, and I'm very, very worried for them.
Another team on a good run though is Newcastle. They've been doing well recently, back up in the top four and kind of cementing their position there. Came from behind though with a 2-1. It could have been quite different if Tony could fucking...
Hold on, stop press. Ivan Toney missed the penalty. What?
Well, yeah. But then he scored one as well.
He also had a goal disallowed. It was a roller coaster first half.
Yeah.
For owners, I should imagine.
I mean, I've got Newcastle defensive as well and also in Sky. So it was a foot in both camps with Tony in both games and Newcastle double defensive in both games, although I didn't play Botman in FPL. Tricky one, but look, Newcastle come back to win. Isak's on the score sheet again.
He's great. His returns per minute is good.
I'm comfortable with my triple Newcastle.
I think, and Planet FPL wifey will disagree with this. She sent a voice note during that deadline stream on Saturday and said, "I'm still going to play Wilson." Obviously, fucking returned as well, didn't he? So she still thinks she's onto a winner. Isak is definitely first choice.
Yeah.
I don't have a doubt about that. They did obviously play together towards the end of the game, and I think we might see that more and more as they're trying to win games. They weren't great in the first half. You know, Brentford's XG was high. The Tony disallowed goal, the two penalties. Although one of them, where I got my Rico Henry assist, I have to confess, was dodgy as hell.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we've got some more VAR talk to come, Brighton fans, I promise you. Brentford, quietly, have had obviously a really difficult week with Brighton, Manchester United and Newcastle, but it is 1 point. And you look back further and it's a draw against Leicester. And if you want to look back further, suddenly it's one win in 6. And that was against a team that was bottom of the league. There's no concern or alarm here for them. But I think it's something we should begin to become conscious of. But then the run of fixtures, Wolves away, Villa at home, even Chelsea away, Forest at home, still decent. You've still got Tony?
Yes.
So is he the full guy for Haaland?
Because of his price, because he's quite a bit more than Isak. I'm not going to be happy about selling him though. When's the cut-off, James, for when it goes from 10 yellow cards to 15 yellow cards?
32nd game, so he's got to get through the Wolves game and the Villa game.
So 2 more games, and if he doesn't get a yellow in the next 2, then he's kind of
but interestingly,
back on the table.
For me, I'm almost thinking if he gets booked this week and misses 32 when I free hit, and misses Chelsea away in 33, and then he's back for Forest at home in 34, I might even leave it. Because as I said, them forward options in 34 aren't great. If he got booked in 32, that becomes more of a problem. Then he's obviously out of 34. But he ticks over great, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been
super
really
asset.
good, really good.
I think we over this last week or so, with a goal at Brighton and a goal again at the weekend, we've seen that he can return even in these bigger games. So I'm not desperate to get rid. I've got Tony, Haaland, Watkins in place. So I'm probably in a different position to many. I guess the only other real forward alternatives to those 3 at the moment are Kane and Isak, probably.
No, I disagree. There's one other name that I really want to get in, and that's Jesus.
Okay, yeah.
And I think a lot of people won't go to him, and that's why I feel like he's a differential for me. So I'm thinking Martinelli could be my third Arsenal, but if I go different and go Jesus, and a lot of people won't, but this is the game where there's only 3 forward slots and 5 midfield slots, and that's what makes it tricky at the moment. But yeah, I think that the names you mentioned, I would just put Jesus in there as well, because he's obviously back and hit the ground running, and they've got a title to win.
I think Bruno Fernandes is quite dependent on how a lot of people will end up here. So I think most have been kind of thinking, right, head towards double United, Fernandes and Rashford, double Brighton, your choice between the 3 attacking mids, and then leave the spot in for Salah. That's the midfield 5 for 34. But the form of, say, Grealish has shaken that up. And also I think for those who have gone without Fernandes, looking at the forwards over what's coming up and going, maybe I can still go free. Because cheaper down, you've got Evan Ferguson, for example, is another name you can put in there. And the likes of Watkins, Tony, Isak, Kane, still ticking over. Absolutely great. So I feel like it's quite dependent financially of people who've got Fernandes or not, what they might be thinking. Because those who haven't gone Fernandes are probably not desperate to do it now. I shouldn't imagine. So Tony, Henry and Raya, they might all end up playing for me in 34. It's first time. Yeah. So I'm looking at that. It's not my intention right now, but nice little fallback options if I need to go for single game week players, as it certainly is with Newcastle assets against Southampton. Leicester assets look not quite as attractive now as they might have done originally for 34. Newcastle, great week for them. To take 9 points from them 3 fixtures, brilliant. They'll finish top 4 from here. Yep. Without any problem, I think. I'd actually think at the moment, because of the Rashford injury and the backlog of fixtures, that Manchester United would be more likely to fall out than Newcastle. I think they'll do it from here. I think Manchester United will as well, by the way. But that's brilliant return, 9 points from that week. I should be really pleased. Trippier's returns are calming, but then you see like the United fixture last week, 1 set piece, 12-pointer. Yeah, he's, I think, going to be the one single game week player that even wildcard as 33 probably won't go without and will want to play in 34.
Cool. Fulham 0, West Ham 1.
Yay.
Victory of the season, performance of the season. No, I think people can tell my sarcasm. For the audio listeners,
no, they might not be able to tell your sarcasm.
Definitely. It was a funny old game, this one. If you look at the stats, I mean, Fulham at 77% possession.
How much?
77%. Did you not see? We were 23%. But do you know what? I think from the first 5 to 10 minutes...
Like 77%.
77%, mate.
Fucking hell.
They completed, I'll tell you exactly because I got it open. I think they completed like 600 passes and God, you are correct. 581 accurate passes. We completed 122. Yet we had more shots on target.
So had 78% in the first half, and you had the only shot on target.
And a higher XG.
Fulham did have 1 shot on target from Harrison Reed.
Yeah, indeed.
Handball. It was some handball from Soufal, wasn't it? It's a little bit fortunate.
I didn't really see they didn't show the replay that much on it.
Oh,
it wasn't even a debate on
when we get to Tottenham Brighton,
Optus
I'll be
Prime.
very honest.
I think I watched it on. I don't even know what country that's from.
You're not allowed to tell anyone that.
I can tell them what I like. It was in the first 5 or 10 minutes. It felt like...
I think it's Optus Sport. Isn't Optus Prime in Transformers?
Optus Prime is some European... African channel or something. It did. I think West Ham... I think from the first 5-10 minutes, I didn't think we were going to lose the game. It felt like sometimes you go into a game, right, we are not going to lose. And after we scored, we just let them have the ball and were pretty dogged in them breaking us down. It looks on stats like they dominated it, and they did, but they did because we just sat off them and let them have it and didn't ever feel like particularly the quality of their chances was that high or that good. And they knocked it around nicely, but it just never felt like that threatening in terms of the quality of their attack. And looking at the back end of the second half, that's when we started just picking them off a little bit. And
the Maxwell corner he's got a pass.
Pathetic, man. Tell me about it. But look, I mean, Rashford had a similar one-on-one where he went through and he hit it straight at Pickford. So it happens to even the best of them. But yeah, all in all, it was comfortable without being easy, if you know what I mean. We just dug in and held our shape. Went to a 4-4-2, which I was surprised.
I was going to say Ings and Antonio, which was after Moyes was quite critical of Danny Ings not being able to play up front his own. Yeah, give him a partner. Seems to make some sense. And
it was Danny Ings is always the one dropping in and link up, and Antonio's the one running the channels and the outball that we were trying to hit. And they did okay. Midfield was okay, dug in, but it wasn't a great game of football, to be honest with you. West Ham and they came on and did all right in the...
Moyes don't like him, does he?
There's something weird there. But maybe he just thought, if I'm playing a 4-4-2, my left-sided midfielder in Fornals needs to track back and help Aaron Creswell, granddad.
Probably helped by Cedric Suarez playing for Fulham rather than Kene Tete as well.
Yeah, he came on late.
If Moyes had known that, he might have played Ben Rama instead, actually.
Yeah, potentially. And West Ham did have a few chances, did okay. Look, take the 3 points and run. That's all it was. Take the 3 points and run, but nothing spectacular.
Anything in Fulham you'd see interesting?
Well, not while Mitrovic is out, it's a bit of a difficult one. Vinicius obviously started. I don't see anything in him that would want to make you want to go there. Maybe Willian, maybe Manor Solomon, but I don't know.
Solomon didn't even start.
No, but when he came on, he was lively. I don't know what you're looking for if you're buying one of these Fulham players.
If you've got 3 forwards in that you're quite happy with, I don't know, say you're sitting there at the moment. There'll be someone sitting there at the moment like Maddison and Rashford. Wants to get rid of Maddison, Rashford possibly injured, got 3 forwards they're quite happy with, and thinking, how am I getting Mo Salah? Well, Andreas Pereira will fit the bill again, won't he?
Yeah.
And he's got the double in 34.
He's on set pieces.
Sure, it's a really tough double. He's going to be on the pens with Mitrovic out as
correct. I mean, that's a constant throughout the entire season, though. Who's the best?
And he had Fulham's best open play chance as well when he should have gone round.
Who's the best midfielder at that 4.5, 4.6, 4.7? It's been Pereira pretty much all season, so that's not changed. But why are you buying that player? That's an enabler, right? So yeah, you can't deny Andreas Pereira, but I wouldn't spend the extra for Willian or anything like that, or Madison. Just go with the cheap one, Pereira.
Agreed. If you ended up free hitting in 34, you've got Palace away and Man City away. Do you think you'd have any West Ham?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. They're just not there. It's just not there.
I don't see how that's better than a Newcastle or a Brentford player in 34 currently, to be honest.
No.
It's like getting it for the sake of it. I think from the 2 teams, the most interesting asset right now actually remains Pereira.
Yeah, I would say so. And those that went in on Zuma, you've now picked up a clean sheet, and he did have one-headed chance.
Consecutive returns. Was Aguerd a sub?
Yeah, Bonner played.
Do you know what I saw? I would, if you'd have been on Tottenham this week, I'd have definitely mentioned it. Because last Wednesday morning, Aguerd was being linked with Tottenham.
Okay.
Right. 1, use your noggin, right? West Ham aren't going to sell to Tottenham. But 2,
if the price is right,
as soon as I saw that, I thought, I bet he has a nightmare tonight.
Yeah.
And he did.
And what did you do? Increase your bid?
Probably. I was thinking, this is weird. He's actually a good, solid centre-back. Why are we interested in him? Oh, yeah, he's had a car crash.
Yeah, it was... who didn't have a car crash last Wednesday, let's be honest? If it wasn't Fabi, it was Zuma. If it wasn't Zuma, it was Aguerd. If it wasn't Aguerd...
Surprised that he was dropped, though.
Yeah, I was too. But Bonner's a solid defender. Yeah. Look, it was nothing exciting, and 2 teams I'm not really interested in from an FPL point of view.
Yeah, unfortunately Fulham as well. It might be. We discussed it with Dara Curran last week on COTC. Might be heading towards the beach here. And just a little cautious note on them. Real longer term thinking here. Their fixtures are quite good for the rest of the season. But if they don't perform well in them, I think it's concerning for them next season. If you think of how well Brentford finished last season, say when Eriksen came in, and then they've come into this second season, finishing last season on a real uplift and a high. Fulham, if they're kind of going into a malaise towards the end of the season and then start badly next season, might, despite the fact they've got good players, might quickly find themselves back in trouble.
Talking of teams in trouble, Leicester City 0, Bournemouth 1. Massive win for Bournemouth to get them out of the relegation zone. This is one of them where as a West Ham fan, you look at it and you're like, okay, we got 3 points. Bloody hell. Wolves have managed to get 3 points against Chelsea. Bournemouth have managed to get 3 points against Leicester. Everyone in and around the EU is picking up points consistently, but credit to Bournemouth for doing it. Now we know that Dean Smith has arrived in the hot seat at Leicester. I'm not sure what kind of impact that's particularly going to have in terms of increasing their chances of surviving. I mean, I think having a manager surely gives you more chance of surviving than not having a manager, sure, but they're not looking in good shape at all. And Jamie Vardy back in the team where you're thinking, all right, everyone's always like, when's he going to lose that pace and when's he going to get dropped? Well, he was back in the team ahead of Daka.
Every year since we started the podcast.
Well, yeah, and
finally
this season it was it, and then he played and still hasn't been able to deliver particularly. But
Nacho.
Well, the stats don't lie. Kelechi, get him in the team.
Playing with other people who can create space for him. He's
James,
got the movement and the finishing. Go on.
Let's ask it, because you did ask it to Andy. Are they too good to go down, or are they actually going to go down? I would have answered the same. I would have thought, you know what, they've got enough quality there. But now...
me and Andy obviously had a good laugh about it. But yeah, I didn't disagree with Andy, in truth. I do now. Yeah, the idea that they're on 25 points from 30 played and the most damning statistic is always the one I tweeted on Sunday. Is the amount of points they've got against teams in the bottom half since the World Cup. Do you know how many?
0.
It is 0.
I read your tweets from time to time.
The only points they've got since the World Cup was a draw at Brentford, they beat Villa, they beat Tottenham, and they drew with someone else who's in the top half who is escaping me. I can't remember who, but there's another point. Oh, Brighton at home too. One of the things I discussed with Andy last year was how much I got kidded by that 4-1. Because the comment I made on the podcast after I went to the King Power was that their league position is probably the most false in the league. I said the same to I met Aaron Lager after the game at Leicester, and I said, there's no way you're, 13th or something at the time. It's like, no way you're not better than that. But the results are not lying anymore. 25 points from 30. And the thing is, they've had a couple of spells. They had that spell where they got 8 against Villa, by the way, and Tottenham in consecutive weeks. And you went, they found goal scoring form. They went to Old Trafford the following week with a better team for half hour, then conceded. And you think, okay, they've sorted it out. Also, prior to the World Cup, was it 1 goal conceded in 5 or something? And they did have a good run of fixtures then. But you think, there's a couple of times this season you thought they've figured it out, they've sorted it out. This week, Palace, Villa, Bournemouth, 0 points with 2 home games there. And I realised the Villa game's impacted a little bit by Dewsbury Hall's sending off. Craig Shakespeare and John Terry are joining Dean Smith on the coaching team. Obviously, both worked with Dean Smith at Villa previously. And Shakespeare's obviously very familiar with Leicester. He did the job a bit when Claudio Ranieri went. Yeah. So he'll be very familiar with a lot of the players there because it's felt very stale for a long time. But yeah, absolutely, they're in the shit now. That week, game week 33, you've got on the Tuesday night, Leeds versus Leicester. You might decide who finishes 17th, 18th. For the Wednesday night, you've got Man City against Arsenal. And I'm hoping on the Thursday night, Tottenham against Manchester United might matter for 4th. I doubt it, but... So it could be some week of football, that. And Sky haven't got any of it. They'll be gutted.
7 defeats in the last 8 and a draw against Brentford.
No clean sheets since the World Cup either.
I'm just looking at goals scored. Nothing. 1, 2, 3.
But what was the common denominator in that period where they got 8 against Villa and Tottenham? Iheanacho. Just keep coming back. I don't understand how they've played their last 4 games and not started them in any.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. And I realise, I think he can give off an aura that he's quite lazy sometimes. And when you're in trouble, don't get me wrong, that's like you can't carry passengers and stuff. But he'll outscore Daka and Vardy put together, in my opinion.
I don't disagree.
Just get Maddison closer to him. Maddison is obviously massively underwhelmed. I mean, again, personally, I was massively impacted by that 4-1 against Tottenham and then the 4-2 at Villa. I'm thinking, I wanted Maddison and Iheanacho, but he's definitely expendable now. There's no looking at it and going, I'm going to keep because he's got Leeds 33 and Everton 34. I mean, what those 2 fixtures, Jesus. City this weekend. You're right. I mean, for me, there's not really a debate on captaincy this week.
Yeah, they're in that bad shape. Any thoughts around Bournemouth? They're out the relegation zone.
They've been doing
I don't really have any
well.
eyes on any players from an FPL point of view. They're not lined up with any doubles
problem,
or anything.
Billing's the one, but it takes one of the
midfield
slots. Yeah, Solanke will be in a few teams, and he was pretty unlucky not to return at the weekend, by the way. And he's fine to hold on to. I wouldn't, if I've got Bournemouth assets, I wouldn't ship myself about Tottenham away. Like, if you've got Solanke, my advice would be play him this week. West Ham at home in 32 is reasonable. Their fixtures aren't the worst going towards the end of the season either.
If they're going into the run-in, West Ham, Southampton, Leeds, Palace, Everton, they've still got those 5 games. If they can get from those 5 games 9, 10 points, they're on 30 points now. I think 38, 39 is going to be enough to stay up. So they've got it in their hands now, and I think they're more than capable of doing it. They won't beat West Ham, but they can beat the others.
Yeah, just one final note on them. Tavernier has been on the fringes for a while. I don't suppose we're going to go and buy Bournemouth this week, but it might be a more interesting one for 32 against yourselves. Talk about players to punt. Obviously, he came on through Tara, got injured at the weekend. Don't know the prognosis yet, but Tavernier might be a really interesting one for free hitters in 32, despite the fact he's not started a game for a good while. I think him and Billing are both interesting for free hitters 32 to consider.
Cool. Tottenham 2, Brighton 1. I know there's a lot of controversy around the refereeing with this game more than anything else. Well, look, it's a case of you agree that it was a penalty and...
No, dived. Can you repeat
Zoom
for the audio listeners
that James is smirking. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't. Firstly, I mean, Sonny's hit though. If you want a way to score your 100th goal in the Premier League.
Andy wrote him off last week on the pod as well.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Doesn't mean he's suddenly steaming, but credit to him for getting 100 goals. And even Kane's finish was good as well.
Oh, when it came to him, I knew he was going to score.
You'll feel like you got away with one there.
I'll feel like, mate, I thought I got away with it anyway. Then I got on the train and looked on Twitter and I realised just how badly we got away with it. Because obviously from where I sit in the ground, there's no way I could have known if Højbjerg had caught Mitoma or not. I'm absolutely miles away.
But Brighton to come to your place, 65% possession. Their XG was obviously much higher.
That's not surprising.
Shots higher, big chances. They had 2, missed 1. Completed double the number of passes. Like, from a footballing point of view, that doesn't necessarily always mean they're the better team. Sometimes you play like that, right? West Ham did the same. Team. But they had enough chances. Mitoma had the ball in the back of the net as well. And you think at it and you look at it and you're like, those points as well.
Let me cover off all the decisions first, the controversial ones, just take you through. So the Mitoma handball one, where the goal's been disallowed, I've probably got an angle of it that won't have seen on the TV because I sit the opposite side of the ground, kind of in line with the penalty area. And what was strange about it was when it happened, you knew it was close. He didn't celebrate. What you might not know is that the linesman was not in any rush to stick his flag up. I promise you, a couple of seconds passed. It was like Mitoma wheeled away and he went, "Oh, you don't want to celebrate." And I think the linesman made the decision based on Mitoma's body language. I think if Mitoma had wheeled away and put his arms aloft, like, come on, I don't think he'd put his flag up. I think the linesman read into it and went, I don't know, why is he not celebrating? Fuck it. I'll stick my flag up. Make sure VAR checks it.
That sounds plausible.
The problem that then happened was, and to be honest, my instinct at the time was, in the ground, it's probably, I couldn't tell for sure, but it's probably handball because that's what I thought Mitoma had done. Like, why didn't he celebrate? He just kind of turned away. The problem then VAR had was it was impossible to tell 100% one way or the other where exactly it hit him. So unfortunately, what happened was they went with the on-field decision, and I think the linesman just guessed. My honest take on it is that if the linesman hadn't stuck his flag up, they'd have given the goal because they couldn't have proved that it was handball. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
VAR, unless it can absolutely prove one way or the other, is going to stick with the original decision. Probably for me, goal should have stood. As I said, I think linesman guessed. But I understood why VAR didn't turn that one over. What else did we have controversial? The McAllister handball. Penalty. The McAllister handball from the Welbeck shot, unfortunately, crap rule. It is correct. You can see from behind the goal that it hits McAllister hip and arm. So by law, unfortunately, it's shit. There's no way that goal should really be cancelled. Similar as Callum Wilson's one in the Brentford-Newcastle game as well. But by law, that's correct. The 2 penalties, the Mitoma one is a disgrace. Like, how in the world? You won't see a single opinion from anyone that doesn't think that's a penalty. Mm-hmm. And also, the Clement Longley Paul and Lewis Dunk is definitely a penalty as well. The only thing I would say about that one is players do tend to get away with it, but 100% that's a penalty as well. But the Mitoma one is ridiculous. How they've not given that.
And yet you'll come away with 3 points.
Yet we come away with 3 points. One interesting statistic from that game is despite all the domination that Brighton had, not a single shot on target in the second half. I can promise you, Suj, didn't feel that was the case in the crowd.
Feel like you're getting peppered and dominated.
Look, we won the game as we've won many games. You know, how are Tottenham 5th as we are at the moment? How are we still in contention? We're still in contention because Sonny's capable of a moment like that and has not had many this year, but is capable of that and pulled it. Couldn't have picked an opponent to pick out a goal like that when you know you're going to be struggling with the ball. And as I said, when Højbjerg pulled it back for Kane, he never thought for a second he was going to miss, knew he was going to score. It was up the chair before he'd even hit it. He was really quiet otherwise. And Brighton were a better team by a mile There's not any aspect of Brighton's performance I couldn't have told you was better than Tottenham's. What I would say about Tottenham is the commitment was there. And there was an understanding, certainly from my perspective, there's more stuff I talk about on Tottenham in terms of the fans being idiots and wanting us to go long. But the commitment was there. There was also a slight shift in formation. So it was three in midfield. Kulusevski did not play in the front three, played in the midfield three. Played to the right. Skip moved from right of Højbjerg to left of Højbjerg. Højbjerg sat deeper, didn't go and press in the game. Not that you want to do a lot of pressing against Brighton, because they do just pick you off and just ping it through third man runs and just beyond you. It's such a joy to watch. Nothing changed my opinion on wanting De Zerbi to be the manager of my football team, but I suspect his antics.
Well, even the fighting.
I suspect his antics probably won't have helped. Okay, let's go from one Italian who wants to, do things off the pitch that piss people off to another one. He's probably going to rule him out.
Sadly, are you
great for Brighton if they keep? I genuinely mean this. If they have a good transfer window and they keep him, I think they'll finish top 4 next year.
Yeah, the obviously assets we've known about, the 3Ms: March, Mitoma, McAllister, Lewis Dunk's fine. Jason Steele sitting there for me now.
He really
perfect goalkeeper.
By the way.
Evan Ferguson, go for it. There's plenty of assets there. They're all affordable. Just pick your 3 and crack on, right?
When I say just on Steele, when I say he impressed me, his distribution is excellent, much better than I thought. Was really punching passes. Tottenham at certain stages when pressed against the 2 number 6s, Caicedo and Gross, and he could punch it through lines into like a Mitoma or something. Really good. He doesn't strike me as going to save anything though, by the way. Which is quite important for a goalkeeper.
Well, listen, double game week, I got my assist. That's all I need. Listen,
he's a 3.9 goalkeeper. He might even be 4.0 now. He's absolutely fine. At the moment, what I would say is from what I saw at the week, he will stay in that team.
Yeah.
At the moment, obviously, when I say he doesn't look like he's going to save anything, he's got no chance with either goal. But he struck me like that for a while. I don't know what his save percentage is since he's come in the team, but I don't feel like it's particularly high. But his distribution is really good. The 3Ms are all great. March has improved his off-the-ball running massively. He's in sync with what's happening with Mitoma on the other side. Mitoma's the best of the 3 to have, I think. But McAllister, if you're on like me, have you got McAllister as well?
I've got McAllister, Mitoma, and Steele on my 3.
It's fine, mate.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Thumping about moving McAllister to March, for example. You're not going to this week anyway with Chelsea away. I think the situation they're in at the moment, it'd be interesting to see what we won't know for sure, obviously. But obviously Chelsea have got the Brighton game sandwiched in between these 2 Real Madrid games, which are Wednesday and Tuesday either side, which is far more important to Chelsea than what happens on Saturday. I would expect Brighton to go to Chelsea and win.
Yeah, me too. Having seen Chelsea go to Wolves and lose, I mean, we were question marking what will Frank Lampard do. We don't know. He knows some of these players from previously. He doesn't know some of these players. Will he stick to the back 3 and wing backs? Will he switch to 4, a back 4 with Cucurella left back, Ben Chilwell dropped to the bench? Great. Do you think that was just a case of him being rested before Madrid?
Possibly. We've got to consider that he, like Reece James, although I think Reece James has been more highlighted, has had injury problems for a long time as well. He's played Saturday against Villa, Tuesday against Liverpool. Should we be that shocked? Probably not. He's the only real one. If he does want to play wing backs, he's probably the only one that really can play left wing back against Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be concerned as a Chilwell owner, but then I wouldn't be that shocked again because of that if he didn't start against Brighton. I'd be absolutely certain he starts the games against Real Madrid, irrespective of Chelsea's system, which I would think is probably a back 3. It had me wondering if actually he'd picked a back 4 just to make Madrid think, right, I'm the new manager, I'm going to pick a back 4. Because I think Chelsea, it seems so obvious to me to play that 3 in midfield, Kovacic, Kante, Fernandes, play Chilwell, James wing backs. They're a little bit short centre back.
What was Kante? Because he wasn't on the bench either, was he?
I would think that's cotton wool, mate.
Simple as that.
Yeah, he was really good against Liverpool.
I know, I saw that game, and he really was. He was buzzing about everywhere and getting quite high up as well in terms of his pressing. Yeah, but it's the midfield where they look light, right? Kovacic, Fernandes are 2 decent players, and then you chuck Conor Gallagher in. He's decent as well, but it just didn't feel good enough. And
scoring goals has been a problem all season, right? It's the worst scoring season for
They need
100
to
years.
spend some money, those tight bastards, don't they? Right, João Felix.
So I don't know if you've seen reports
Get
over
him
the weekend.
signed up, mate. 100 million.
They're talking about it.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
Get him signed up. You need him. Kai Havertz was not much less than 60, 70, was he?
I think Chelsea's
Raheem
going to
Sterling,
be Chelsea's going to
million.
be such an interesting narrative in the summer. Look, they've got Nkunku coming in the summer, who's probably going to be their boy through the middle next year, I should imagine. Their seasons are right off.
They got Lukaku coming back in the summer, for fuck's sake.
Nico's laughing away.
Oh, mate.
That's why. Did you see them getting linked with Conte last week as well?
Antonio Conte.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it makes sense. Look at that midfield three.
Yeah.
Kovacic, Kante, Fernandes. I mean, it's a decent midfield. I know a lot of Chelsea fans think they need a new holding midfield player, especially because you can't rely on Kante to stay fit.
Sure, they've got enough money to buy Rice.
You've got Chilwell and James as wing backs. Imagine Conte never had that at Tottenham, did he? Bring Lukaku back into the team up front. We did great with it inside. You think, fucking hell, makes a bit of sense very short term. Would that be a million miles away from the project manager that we were told, obviously, Chelsea were going for, but may now have abandoned? Yeah, their season's over. I don't think it means you should panic and have to sell Chelsea assets. We've both got Kepa and Chilwell. Yeah. All I'd say is that Chelsea have, I think in 34 Chilwell's, and they're both easy benches because they go to Arsenal. Obviously, if you're bench boosting, you've got no interest in them. 35, they've got Forest at home, and then it's 36 Bournemouth away, or the other way around, I forget. But that Bournemouth fixture don't look quite so great now, does it? No. The Forest one still does, though. But I think, Chilwell might need to be a financial sacrifice. Rather than I want to sell him, I don't particularly, actually. So I think even in 33 as well, home to Brentford, I think that's a decent differential. He'll haul in one game before the end of the season, Chilwell.
Any interest in Wolves? They're up to 13th in the table, 1 point above West Ham, although West Ham clearly will win our game in hand away at the Etihad comfortably. So, give us those 3 points now, please.
No, not really, though we should note, just have a check of a price, so just should have already done it, Toti Gomez, who obviously played again at left back at the weekend. He's played the last few in a row now, and he's an enabler. If you need to find money, what price is he? 3.8.
Oh, I thought you were looking there, sir.
Toti Gomez.
Toti Gomez for you. Give me a second and I will find him. Player stats.
In your own time.
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
In your own time.
Toti
Gomez.
Doesn't show the price.
Is it
3.8.
Thank you very much.
Toti Antonio Gomez.
There's an enabler there that's playing if you need to find a 3.8 defender for whatever reason. It's probably as good as any to get at the moment, unless you need to bench boost later on. They played a little bit of a different system at the weekend, played a 4-4-2. Costa and Cunha played up front. Nunez's goal was obviously a weldy. There was a weekend of some great goals at the weekend, and his was right up there. So you can't hit that any better. Tempted to call out Kepa and say he should save it. I saw a few people saying, Kepa's been beat from long range again. Yeah, you can't play for this one. Super strike. And I think for Wolves it's a great result because obviously Neves unavailable. Neves is suspended for the Brentford game as well at the weekend. I wouldn't read between the lines that because Wolves beat Chelsea, that Wolves beat Brentford. In terms of stylistics, you can't get too more different really than sort of Chelsea and Brentford. So it'd be a very different game. In terms of you want to take a punt on attacking Wolves' asset, the last 12 Premier League goals have been scored by 12 different players. So where do you start?
Yeah, true. Southampton 1, Man City 4. Southampton now are in that dreaded position where even if you win your next game, you're still going to be in the relegation zone. As soon as it gets to above 3 points, that's a head fuck because you're in there for a little while now, and they have some difficult games as well coming up.
It's Palace at home this weekend, is it?
Yeah.
Suddenly that doesn't look so great. They go to Arsenal next week. If they don't get anything at the weekend, it's almost impossible to envisage they'll get anything at the Emirates. And
Bournemouth South Coast derby 6-pointer.
People can watch that instead of Tottenham Man United on that Thursday night in 33.
And then Newcastle, Forest away, Fulham. It's tough for them. I don't see them getting out of it now.
Well, I think probably more the problem is, if they don't get a positive result against Palace at the weekend, they are going to be, it's 6 points or so by the time they go to Bournemouth. They do host Bournemouth in 33. And then you're thinking, and you don't see the goals in them.
No, not at all. That's the challenge. What's your thoughts
and
on...
Lavia might have picked up another... If Lavia's picked up a problem at the weekend, which it looked like he did. Fucked, mate. He's been their most important player all season anyway. But look at them when he is available and when he isn't.
Erling Haaland's a must now for City, I think.
I don't like that word, Such.
Yeah, well, no, you don't like the word essential. I just said a must.
think, same thing. I think you could take him on this week. If I was in your position and just bet against him, I'd be very tempted. But I think if you go that way, you would be committing, I think, to wildcard 33.
To get him
34, back. Yeah. But there's every case to say if you're just going through the next 2 weeks, it's 1 week. Can you take him on?
Jack Grealish at 7 million. I think he's an add-on as well. A lot of people want to add a defensive, looking at Ederson or maybe Stones or even Diaz.
Yeah.
They went with the 4 centre backs: Akanji, Ake, Diaz, and Stones. Call them 4 centre backs, 4 defenders.
Now.
You think
that doesn't mean they're going to play every game, but that is the first choice.
Yeah. Stones is one to potentially consider as well. Where do you see yourself going with City assets? I think Haaland is there clearly for me. Grealish definitely solves a problem when I can add him in as well.
The thing is, we're all desperate to go there, and I did concede again. So none of them City guys have got you fuck all if you had any this week. They can't help themselves. Once they've got a game won, would you be totally surprised they beat Leicester 6-1 at the weekend?
No.
And them City defensive guys get you nothing. I think Diaz is the standout one to get, but he costs £1 million more than Nathan Ake, and I'm not sure I can advise that. So I think for me, it'd probably be Ake. I just think he's a little bit more of an offensive threat than Stones. That said, because Stones is obviously regularly pushing into midfield, as soon as they've got the ball, he goes in alongside Rodri at the moment. He can, in theory, can pass the ball to De Bruyne, who then beats a couple of players and smashes it top corner. You've got the assist. Just by virtue of being higher up the pitch, there's a little bit more probability in terms of open play. But I think from set pieces, Ake's still probably the best one. And it feels like Laporte is just out of favour. So they're the only 2 left footers, is Ake and Laporte. And presumably, unless Pep decides to pep himself, this is how he's decided he's really going to play now. And so this is how it's going to stay. But I wouldn't be surprised to do something different against Bayern Munich tonight. But I think Ake from the defensive ones. And as I said, I think I was having a discussion with Rob Pick, one of our patrons, last night. And he's in an interesting position where he's got Maddison, Barnes, and Rashford. Sorry, Rob. But Barnes has potentially, we should have said, Barnes has potentially got an injury for Leicester as well. So Maddison, he doesn't really want to play at Man City this week. He's got Barnes and Rashford possibly injured. I said to him, I would strongly consider getting Grealish and Gundogan and doing it that way. I really don't think Gundogan's a bad shout, but I can't make the case now to put Gundogan ahead of Grealish. He's just been in brilliant form for a while now.
He has.
And the returns are consistently coming.
Yeah.
7 million Man City midfielder who's really in form. I think Mahrez feels like the one who, we know the explosiveness is there, but he's most at risk. He just played Bernardo there.
Yep.
I don't see him playing Bernardo instead of Grealish at the moment. Once Foden's back, it possibly becomes a problem again. But I think, to be honest with you, I think probably up to and including 34, you'll probably be all right. Then if they're still in the Champions League, yeah, there'll be a rotation headache later on. But the thing is, if you want free City anyway, the rotation headache's going to exist there, whatever you do. I know there's a few that got Alvarez and Haaland this week. I can't decide which one's going to play. One of them will definitely go off. Well, actually, they both went off because Alvarez ended up with Haaland's hat-trick penalty, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
So, I mean, Alvarez you could put in the conversation, and just by virtue of he'll get minutes as Man City attacker, I do think there are better forward options at the moment. Yeah, Haaland, I think there was a real debate last week, Haaland versus Rashford versus Watkins. I don't see Haaland versus Kane as a debate this week, to be honest.
Let's talk about Sunday. Leeds United 1, Crystal Palace 5. I mean, we all knew Roy Hodgson was a free-scoring, attacking manager. I mean, the XG was high as well, 3.15.
I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say if Vieira had been in charge, they'd have won 7-1.
5 big chances.
The funny thing was, me and the wife and Harry went to a play centre thing for him. And we went to my mum and dad's afterwards, which I wasn't comfortable about doing because I knew it meant watching Liverpool against Arsenal with my dad. In any case, I get round to my parents, it's 20 minutes gone of Leeds Palace, and Dad's gone to me, Leeds fucking battered Palace here. Okay, fine. 10 minutes later, I'm going, seems pretty even, this, Dad. 10 minutes later, I'm going, I feel like Palace are on top here. You've been watching the same game as me. I looked on our Slack, and all the patrons were going, fucking hell, our Leeds not winning this. They've had so many chances. I've seen it back now, and they did. What I saw of it, Palace were the better team for 60 to 70 minutes. They were very fortuitous in the first half, Crystal Palace. And you wonder if Gay doesn't get the goal right on half-time, then the Leeds just go on and win. It's a different football match. Psychology, you think, we played well, we've worked hard. Fuck, gone in 1-1, heads gone. Palace score early second half. They just chased the game too quickly. Gay kind of epitomised Palace's indifference in halves as well, because despite the fact I didn't see the worst of the first half, he had a really bad first half. He had a really good second half, actually. And the two star boys for them, Eze and Elise.
It makes you wonder why Eze's not been getting the team for a while.
Daniel, checkbook, please. Eze is a player I adore. And do you know what was really nice? After he scored the goal yesterday, it dawned on me, Sunday, sorry. It dawned on me that was the first time I'd seen him smile in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think Roy Hodgson's just give them simplicity back and freedom. And we thought it was going to be pragmatic and dodgy. He's gone, hang on, you lot are good enough with these fixtures. And Eze and Elise have taken on the mantle. You think Zaha missing as well. Imagine that I'd said to you, Palace are going to complete the most dribbles ever in a Premier League match and Wilfried Zaha won't be on the pitch.
Yeah.
Brilliant ball carrying. Eze, I really like him in that position where what Hodgson has tweaked actually is him and Schlupp both played as kind of really high 8s, almost like 10s, with Decore really deeper. And one of Palace's real problems this season has been finding a partner strong enough for Decore. What Hodgson's done is don't just anchor it, sit there. These two are going to go and press in and carry the ball forward. It means quite often you can look at Palace, or certainly on Sunday, where they had lopsidedness, where Elise and Ayew off the ball might even be deeper than Eze and Schlupp. That's not to say anything bad about Elise as a potential asset. Ayew, will put the work in. You also know, Leeds fans, if Jordan Ayew is scoring twice against you, you're having a rough fucking day. Elise, how he never scored as well.
3 assists though, right?
Brilliant. Have you seen the run he had at the end as well?
I haven't.
They're trying to wipe him out and he just tears them apart and he should score to make it 6-1. Joy to watch. Brilliant player. Love him to come and be competitive with Kulusevski. Did he give a post-match
press interview?
No, I don't think so.
Shame.
But same thing, he looked happy. I mean, the Elise interview people. No, was it after against you, wasn't it? I think it was against
when
West
he scored the
Ham
winner
before the
against
World
us
Cup.
late. Yeah.
What did he say?
Nothing. This is what I do. I don't celebrate goals.
And he didn't celebrate the great free kick he got against Manchester United. He looked a happier player on the weekend. So look, maybe just shackles are off and they'll enjoy themselves. The one thing we have to say, Roy Hodgson has done great in these 2 games so far. We really do, because he's letting them go. But we're not surprised that the fixtures have got better and they've got better. No one actually thought Palace were going to be in trouble.
No.
Sam Johnston might suddenly be an interesting one for 32 for free hitters, or even those who've potentially got a ward goalkeeper problem or something. Should have said, by the way, I think Keppel's saying goal for Chelsea at the moment until something goes wrong.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with my backup in Steele because I know he'll play, and I'll probably play him when Brighton have got a double, and they're going to have quite a few doubles as well. So
Palace have got only 2 teams left in the top half. I think it's only 1 now, isn't it? Because Fulham 10th or 11th. Where are Chelsea these days?
Chelsea are below Fulham.
Palace might catch Chelsea, aren't they?
There's 6 points between them. I think Chelsea's 39, Palace is 33.
The only game Palace have got left against the side in the top 9 is Tottenham away in Gameweek 35. And unless Tottenham perform much better than I expect in Gameweeks 32 to 34, Tottenham's season will be over. And this is why Palace is really, really interesting. So I think Gay, Anderson's fine. I'd have a slight preference for Gay. Johnston in goal might be a problem once Gator gets fit, but I think for 32 particularly is quite interesting. And Eze and Elise have both really put their hands up now. And I think they're both interesting. The problem is, a little bit like with Phil Billing, takes a midfield spot. But I think most of us will probably, who free hitting 32 will probably gamble one of the two. Slight preference because the opponent is Everton would be Elise.
Let's talk about the highlight of the weekend was Liverpool 2, Arsenal 2, swinging punches. In the end, Liverpool nearly with an XG of 4 and a lot of big chances.
Leeds really escaped a brutal battering.
Yeah, quite possibly.
We'll save you for another day. They're in trouble. What a game this was, Serge.
Arsenal dominating the first half a little bit more, Liverpool coming back into it. We've seen Granit Xhaka getting a lot of stick for getting involved. I don't know if it's necessarily fair or not.
It could have been coincidence, but
yeah.
The thing is, Arsenal went to Liverpool last year, lost 4-0, quite near the start of the season, and they were doing absolutely fine. They went through half round and didn't have any problems, and Arteta got in a row, and it lifted the crowd, and Arsenal crumbled. And unfortunately, statistically, if you look at the point from the Xhaka-Trent moment, it's like the game flips on its head. Yeah. Now, there's only a few minutes left of the first half, but in those few minutes left of the first half, Liverpool had 3 great chances, one of which Mo Salah scored. And then you go into half-time and it's completely different. Have you seen the linesman incident?
Yeah, the elbow.
What do you think?
They've confirmed there's an investigation. He's standing down.
Clearly, there's an investigation at least.
They said he's standing down at the moment, but they're talking about an 8-game ban because it should match Mitrovic's ban or what have you.
I almost think, I don't know if he meant it. That is the problem. You can't tell, but it's weird. People saying, Robertson come over to him really aggressively. We've spoken about this a lot, about players being aggressive. That didn't really feel like that.
Yeah.
And you can't tell if Robertson touches him or not. If Robertson touches him, he's out of order. But you're an official. You cannot do that. And whether he tried to, you can't see it from an angle, but I can only think he's tried to shove him off like that. Like if he's touched his arm and he's tried to shoo him off. But what actually happens is he ends up fucking clocking him in the jaw, doesn't he? And if a player did that, by the way, Robertson would be giving it the Harry Kane special. Yes, the Harry Kane special at Goodison Park and rolling around and getting his opponent sent off, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
If that's a footballer on a pitch, it's a red card.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. So, yeah, I think the smart thing to do there would be just take him out for the rest of the season. Can't be one for one and one for another. If you're an official, you've got to be on a pedestal where no matter what's happening, you can't react, right? Yeah. So I think probably, he needs taken out. But it was something else that obviously just added to the anger of Liverpool's players. In the moment after the Trent and Xhaka incident happened, Trent went on a mad one where it was like, fucking hell, he's going to get sent off here. But he worked really hard. Then he knocked it out for a throw-in. He gave the crowd the come on, get up with everyone. And the crowd got up for it. And just somehow mad shit happens to football teams at Anfield because you could not believe watching that first half hour that anything was going to happen other than Arsenal were going to slaughter them. I promise you, half hour into the game, it was more likely Arsenal were going to go and win 4-5-0 than not win that game because they were so dominant and so impressive. It was a really interesting, not only was it a great football match, it was a really interesting tactical match as well. So Klopp decided to play Trent a la John Stones Zinchenko and play inverted on the ball. And certainly for the first half hour, it did not work. And in response, which I think was pre-planned, obviously Arsenal do the same with Zinchenko, but actually he basically just played there.
Yep.
And Gabriel was tasked with coming out to Salah. And I think that's what it was. They didn't want Zinchenko ended up one-on-one, having to get back in position and deal with Salah. So Arsenal essentially played the game very much in a 3-2 Manchester City structure, but rather than moving in and out of it, they largely stayed with it. And I was watching the game with my dad, and I kept saying to him, Liverpool have to go long. It's their only way into the game. What they did, what was quite clever, was once I think Liverpool had realised what Arsenal were doing with Zinchenko, they tried to get Henderson to pull Zinchenko out of position. So what Arsenal were doing was being very brave and going man-to-man. So once Trent went inside, Xhaka was going and pressing against him. They were going very man-to-man. Henderson was pulling Zinchenko out of position. More importantly, though, Curtis Jones, his sole role in that game was to try and pull Thomas Partey out of position. And what it meant, and the reason why I felt Liverpool had to go direct was, if they didn't win the first one, they were going to win the second ball. And it was almost like go old school. And when you look at the second half and the amount of chances that Liverpool had, which is gobsmacking in the end from the way the first third of the match went, can you look back on any of them and go, that was because that was great play by Liverpool? No, it was just chaos. Chaos. And Arsenal didn't help themselves, I think, particularly in the last 10 minutes. I think Arteta made a rick, really, to bring on Kivil and go to a back five. They, to be honest, they ended the game playing like Tottenham in a 5-4-1. And it just invited too much pressure to the end. And from watching the first half hour going, oh my God, these are so good, they're going to win the league, fuck, to watching the end of the game, they'll be relieved they've got the point.
Do you still think they're going to win the league?
I think the way they defended that second half will hurt confidence a little bit. I think it's close. The bookies will give City the slight edge now. But City have got to beat Arsenal. If City don't beat Arsenal, Arsenal will win the league.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I see Arsenal getting to 90 points. Do you think it's enough?
Me and Clayton had a big discussion on Tottenham last week, and we said 89, I think, would probably win it.
Yeah, I can see them getting to 90, and that's losing to City. But that's the most I see them getting to. It's going to be very, very touch and go.
It's ironically, it's an amazing for a neutral position to be in where both teams have got it in their own hands.
Yeah, it's true.
Because City have got the slight advantage on the goal difference as well, right? So, and I don't think, interestingly, City and Arsenal, if it's a draw, isn't disastrous for City, as long as they keep winning their other games, because that Arsenal-Newcastle game is going to be a psychological, and I've both got to play Brighton.
Yeah.
Even though Brighton goes to the Emirates, they will give Arsenal some problems, and Brighton are well equipped to potentially beat Manchester City as well. So they've both got to play Chelsea at home, which we know Chelsea have been shy at, but I think on the day it will probably still be a tough game for both. So there's a way to go. I mean, if Arsenal can get through the big game against City, they'll win it. I think if they come out of that and they're only 3 points ahead and City got the game in hand and the better goal difference, then City probably know how to see it through from there, you would think. And then it's real pressure on where Arsenal have to go to St James's and win, have to beat Brighton the next week and stuff like that. And then you're really relying. Once it flips, and we say this every year about City, Liverpool in the past, once you're chasing City, you're probably fucked. So I've got to stay ahead of them.
Cool. James, do you want to tell everybody what they got to look forward to this week?
Brilliant game, though. And Aaron Ramsdale's save from Salah.
Oh, fingertips.
It's probably save of the season because it takes the deflection. He's already committed to the first one.
Yeah.
And how does Kanate not score that chance?
Fingertips. Yeah.
Liverpool's XG was mad in the end, primarily because of so many chances in the last 10 minutes. Liverpool had a higher XG against Arsenal than they did in the 7-0 against Manchester United. As said, it was Salah's highest ever XG in the game. And by the way, Arsenal didn't play badly. I think they just fell into a trap that they've done in the past. We used to speak about this a lot on the Sky Pods with them. They go ahead and they change mindset. They stopped doing it this year. But I think the fact Liverpool scored just before half time, they went into full counter-attacking mode. I don't know about anybody else as well, but when Kanate missed a chance and then Martinelli had the pass on for Trossard or Saka, I shit myself then, mate. That's when I realised I really wanted Man City to win this league. Fuck this if they win from that Kanate miss. It's not a terrible result for Arsenal. I think the manner of it be disappointing. Most of them would have been okay before a draw. With a draw before the game, you need to reflect on that and realise it, and it's okay.
Yeah, a draw away at Anfield is...
No one fucking wins there.
No, exactly.
Except for Leeds, somehow.
Yep. Cool. That's the games from the weekend, James. What are we doing the rest of this week in terms of content? It's really a Tuesday, so people are a bit probably disoriented with the days, but right. Being Easter and all that.
Sky Fantasy Football tomorrow. Clash of Correspondence Thursday is Tottenham versus Bournemouth with Ricky Saunders and Neil Grover. Friday I'll be streaming on Patreon. We've already released the UCL Fantasy podcast. Rob Pick joined me for that last night. We got the Q&A today. We got Tottenham's back tomorrow. We got a quiz on the relegation battle on Thursday. We'll have our Game Week 31 preview on Friday. If you want to support the show, Serge.
Head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. Additional podcasts that you mentioned. The Slack
additional
channel.
patrons get us things like brick walls.
Yeah, exactly that.
Literally.
And keep the lights on as well, because we need plenty of those. You know the drill. Head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. All the info is there. We'd love to have you as part of the community there. Righty ho.
Got time for a couple of cues?
We have.
What haven't we covered? I feel like I should have mentioned Forest. Interesting. I feel like I should have said Forest actually changed to a back three at the weekend. I've told you before, 2 shit centre backs don't mean you should pick 3 shit centre backs. Go on, Suj.
Lee Jackson says, "Did I have a nice break?" I did. He said, "Did I leave money for James and Nico to get pizza?" Is that in reference to something?
Nico fucked off as well.
He was away. Was I supposed to leave money for pizza? Is that what your parents do when the parents go out? They leave 20 quid and say, "Get yourself a pizza." You spend it
on booze, didn't you?
And get food instead. Jarvis says, "Who's your favourite stand-up comedian?"
Who?
Dave Chappelle is the GOAT. There's no doubt about it. Dave Chappelle.
I tell you, I've seen live a couple of times the last couple of years. I think it's brilliant. It's Kevin Bridges.
Okay, he's pretty decent.
It's great.
But I think Dave Chappelle's up there. Trevor Noah's up there as well. I've seen him live twice. I had tickets for Dave Chappelle back in the last year, but I didn't realise I booked them. The thing is, when these concert tickets come out, I didn't know that they were being released, and someone in a WhatsApp group mentioned they were being released. So it was like, oh shit, they go live at 9 o'clock. By 9:15, they're sold out. But I managed to get 2 tickets. They weren't cheap either.
Have you seen Twitter comedians? Have you seen Michael Richards telling the story about his contract negotiation at Man City?
Yeah.
That's the
Proper
best thing
funny.
I've seen all weekend.
But I booked them and then realised that I wasn't around when I'd booked the Dave Chappelle tickets, so I had to sell them. But sold them to Manchild, so it was all right.
So you ticket touted?
Yeah.
So you've been watching illegal streams and ticket touted?
Face value.
Right, cool.
I didn't make any money on it. I'm sure if it's face value, it's all right. FPL Tractor, have you ever come back to your job after a holiday and realised your replacements were better? I realised while I was on holiday that I didn't need to come back, but dragged kicking and screaming, bills to pay, had to turn up again. What's the best strategy, James, at this point for those that have 6 blanks in 32 but want to use the free hit in 34? That's Will Hill's burner.
I don't know why you would. I just can't. And I realise there'll be teams set up that don't need to free hit in 32. But the bottom line for the majority of people is the players that you want in 34, you will also want in 37 and 36. So if you free hit 34, great. You still need to go and fix the problem for the other weeks going on. So you're gonna, either way you do it, you're gonna go and buy the same players. And if you set yourself up really well for 34, maybe then it enables things where you can go, oh shit, now I've already committed to this. Now I can take a punt on an Elise, for example, or something like that instead. Whereas if you free hit 34, you're going to find yourself wanting to buy the same players for 36 and 37 that you free hit in 34. And that's not to, our differential team, Serge, I was having this discussion on the differential show on Friday. Actually, the best solution now for that team, because of its balance, is probably to free hit in game at 38.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because it's going to cover it all fine. And there'll be others in that situation. There'll be people who have maybe really committed to Manchester United, have no Manchester City, no Brighton, and like, I need to free hit 34. But are you not sitting there? If you're sitting there with no Manchester City, you're not thinking you need to fucking get that this week anyway. Come back for Brighton, who've got one of the best fixtures in 33 away to Nottingham Forest. So you're still heading that way. If you've got no Liverpool as well, then how does that make 32 any less of a problem than 34? Because you'll want three Liverpool assets in 32 and 34. So I think that's part of the case. But I'm buying Liverpool players anyway. Okay, fine. So I think what people are thinking is, I'll go and buy the Liverpool players now, which is understandable. I can't get to Man City and Brighton players in time. That's what people are thinking. But then, are you going to get there in time for 37 either? Wildcard teams in 33, I think, are going to look very similar. Going to be 3 Brighton, 3 Man City, bits of Newcastle, bits of Manchester United. Certainly Liverpool coverage with potentially a plan to move Liverpool onto more of the others that are doubling, like some extra Newcastle, for example. be similar. That's not to say any of that's wrong, by the way. It's just what's going to happen.
Correct, indeed. James, that's it. That's a few of the questions that we've had in on Twitter, a rundown of all of the games, loads of content coming at you thick and fast for the rest of the week. But other than that, I hope you had a good and successful game week. Back at you tomorrow with a bit of Sky. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. As ever, be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.